our president as the leader of the world.
That's right. And one other thing that we have not been talking about this morning, and that is the fact that the president himself tried to make a surprise visit to the DMZ.
Oh, yeah.
He tried to chop her up in Marine One, but the fog was so thick he was unable to do it. Nonetheless, he did try to get that iconic photo. Well, it's not going to exist from this trip.
He should have left early with Brett Baer. Brett Baer would have given him a ride. He did his whole show with the DMZ. Fascinating,
wasn't it? He actually, he diagrammed it all for us. What was interesting, though, Sarah Huckabee Sanders said when she had to tell the press where they were going, she held up a sign that just said DMZ. Interesting. She said, that's the way they told me to tell the press that we were doing this. I don't know if that's the South Koreans saying this is the way we want you to tell the press.
We don't want to create an additional fury, although we've had presidents go there before and look at the binoculars. Meanwhile, at 6 minutes after the hour, 1 hour ago, I talked to General Jack Keane about what this means and what message we have to give to China. Even though we have friend leaders who are friendly with each other, it's got to be a stern message.
Stern.
Message.
Yep.
Here's Jack Keane. That's four wall cues.
Part of diplomacy. We need something from him to denuclearize North Korea for sure. We have to push back on that. We also have to push back on the trade imbalances, the currency manipulation, the cyber espionage that's going on, stealing our intellectual property. So President Trump can't just ask for something. He has to push back. And he has to stake a claim that the United States leadership is going to be felt in that region.
You know what I also think goes a long way? If you look at the president's staff, I saw the cutaways yesterday while they were readying for the president to walk out. There's General Kelly, there's General McMaster, and General Mattis was just there. So if you're trying to send a message and you wonder what this president's about, his rhetoric is strong, his presence is strong, and the people he hired are strong. They mean strength. And believe it, I wish we were in a world where an outstretched hand and sincere message of peace worked, but it doesn't.
Well, clearly the message is crystal clear, presented by the White House. Hey, North Korea, we're going to do everything we can, and we're going to try to help us to get rid of your nukes. More on that later, but right now, breaking overnight, a big night for Democrats across the country as Ralph Northam wins the race to become the next governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia.
And in New Jersey, Phil Murphy beating out Kim Guadagno.
Yep. Griff Jenkins is live in Washington, D.C. Hey, Griff.
Hey guys, Democrats celebrating all around the country. Nowhere, perhaps more than in the Commonwealth of Virginia, as Democrat Ralph Northam defeated Republican Ed Gillespie by 9 points, 54-45. Northam ran on a clear message tying Gillespie to President Trump, and he continued that message in his victory speech.
Virginia has told us to end the divisiveness, that we will not condone hatred and bigotry, and to end the politics that have torn this country apart.
That speech interrupted by protesters holding signs that read "Sanctuary for All," booing the governor-elect as he was led off the stage. Democrats cited resistance to the president as the key factor for winning, despite Gillespie's choosing not to campaign with or embrace President Trump, something the president faulted him for over Twitter last night. Nevertheless, the former RNC chairman conceding with class.
Governor-elect Northam is a good man, and I appreciate his service to our country and our Commonwealth, and I wish him nothing but the best success as our 73rd governor.
And in New Jersey, as you mentioned, Democrat Phil Murphy easily defeating Republican candidate Kim Guadagno by 12 points. We're going to hear a lot about what this all means for 2018, guys.
I'll tell you what it means. It means Virginia's a Democratic state. New Jersey's a Democratic state. So the Democrats win.
Yeah. Thank you, Griff.
Thank you, Griff.
The headline in the New York Times, Democrats scored 2 big victories in Trump rebuke. It's hard to understand how that is a rebuke because, as you just mentioned, they were both states that went for Hillary Clinton. The other thing is Ed Gillespie never really asked the president to do anything, kept him at arm's length. It would have been a rebuke had he said, hey, Mr. President, come down to the Commonwealth and campaign for me or do all this stuff, cut commercials for me. He didn't do any of that until they made an emergency call yesterday morning and said, could you cut a robocall from Asia to try to help me, which the president did, but it was too little too late. And he lost by more than the pollsters were saying just 4 days ago.
Well, they point out that Terry McAuliffe and Ken Cuccinelli was a lot tighter. Ken Cuccinelli, the Republican who got no support, and Ed Gillespie almost won to have that Senate seat. So they thought this would be a little bit closer. Meanwhile, Steve Bannon did weigh in at the last second, said Ed's my guy, but the president actually went for a different guy during the primary. So the president tweeted this out: Ed Gillespie worked hard, but did not embrace me or what I stand for. Don't forget, Republicans won 4 out of 5 4 of 4 House seats in those special elections. And with the economy doing record numbers, we will continue to win even bigger than before, which is strange because if you're worried about the economy, this president's got some strong numbers that says the economy's on the right track.
Well, maybe the wake-up call is for establishment conservatives like Ed Gillespie. If you're going to run for office and you don't embrace the president, you might not win.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying he should have been all in or not run at all.
Well, it's part of his strategery that this morning they're probably thinking maybe we should have done it the other way.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Send us your comments.
Yeah, Jillian only supports 2 of us, and she's still able to do well here.
I'm still here. I mean, I think I'm doing well.
Right.
I don't know. I know what you're saying behind my back, though, Brian.
Right, absolutely.
That's why you're the one she doesn't support.
Right, that's it. 2 out of 3.
I support all 3 of you. Good morning to you. Let's get you caught up on your news of the day, beginning with this Fox News alert. Today, Vice President Mike Pence is heading to Sutherland Springs, Texas, in the wake of the horrific church shooting. Survivors now say the gunman targeted crying children and babies during the rampage, and that he took his own kids to the church days earlier for a Halloween party. That gunman's past getting more disturbing by the day. In addition to domestic assault, we now know he was investigated for sexual assault. We'll have more in a live report from Texas in just a few minutes. Police releasing brand new video of the California mom found chained and beaten on the side of the road after she says she was kidnapped. This is surveillance video that you're looking at, and it shows Sherry Papini running unshackled through a church parking lot at 4:15 on the morning she was found. She was spotted just 7 minutes later on the freeway with a chain around her waist and clamps on her wrist. Papini claims she was abducted by 2 Hispanic women and held for 3 weeks. And Joe Biden's upcoming book, shelling out details about Obama's wish for a Biden presidency. Former Vice President Joe Biden revealing to the New York Times President Obama once told him, quote, "Joe, if I had the power of appointment, I'd appoint you president." Biden has claimed he would have won the 2016 election if he ran. His memoir, Promise Me Dad, hits store shelves next week. Let's look at your headlines, guys.
That's quite a tidbit. All right.
Yes, it is.
Stay tuned for Joe's book.
All right, coming up straight ahead. Thanks, Jillian. The left screamed treason after a Russian lawyer met with a Donald Trump Jr. Remember that in the office? But it turns out that wasn't the whole story, and it could be bad news for Democrats.
Plus, he's the son of an Iranian immigrant, served 16 years in the military, and was just elected to a city council. He's going to join us to discuss his amazing life of service, and that man is coming up next.
That, I believe, is actually close to the textbook definition of treason.
This is moving into perjury, false statements, and even into potentially treason.
Democrats famously yelled treason after Donald Trump Jr.'s meeting with that Russian lawyer, pictured screen right there. So what do they say now as it is revealed the same lawyer also met with Fusion GPS, the firm behind that anti-Trump dossier? Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton joins us right now live from our nation's capital. Tom, so Fusion GPS met with that lawyer before she went in and met with Donald Trump Jr., and then after she met with Donald Trump Jr., went back and met with Fusion GPS. What was going on?
I mean, it looks like a setup, especially since Fusion GPS was being paid by the DNC and the Hillary operation around the same time. It's either a scam or a setup. If it's a setup, obviously that's a real major issue. But the scam is that Fusion GPS is the firm that alleged Russia collusion with the with the Trump campaign, when in fact they were working, it looks like, to pressure the Trump campaign on behalf of the Russians. And this dossier that they're all behind is, I think, in the end, the crux or the key to unraveling the whole anti-Trump operation by the Obama administration in terms of spying, leaking, and now criminal investigation. I want to know when the FBI knew about the dossier and its origins, and what Mr. Mueller knows about the dossier and its origins. I think this whole investigation is fruit of the poison tree. and needs to be shut down before anything else is done.
This is incredible news. If that is proven that they were calling Russian collusion with the president, with President Trump, and they were the reason for the collusion, they were setting him up for failure all along, what's the punishment for that? What happens next? How can they get away with that?
Well, by the Mueller standard, you're subject to criminal investigation for talking to Russians. You're called up on the Hill for talking to Russians. Donald Trump Jr. has been called up on the Hill. I know based on reports, his lawyers are communicating with the special counsel's office. Is the Clinton operation going to be subject to the same type of scrutiny by Mr. Mueller? I doubt it. Yeah. Because frankly, the dossier and Mueller, they are together. I mean, he's got to be held responsible for the use of the dossier at this point. Yeah. And Mr. Comey does too, by the way.
Tom, I was watching the House floor on C-SPAN last night, and I saw Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows and a number of other congressional Republicans say that Mr. Mueller's got to quit the job. Essentially, they need to get rid of him. But also, there should be a special investigator, special counsel to look into Uranium One and the dossier and all that other stuff. Are you on board with that?
Oh, sure. I mean, just let's begin with the Clinton emails and work our way back from there. That was to cover up the pay for play, the foundations, and now the Uranium One, that is part of the pay to play allegations.
Yeah, it's not just
and I think the
thing.
American people want an independent, serious investigation, and one that is not compromised by the likes of someone like Mr. Mueller, and someone that's subject to control, unlike this current special counsel. And this is why Mr. Trump was elected, to make sure that Mrs. Clinton, in part, was held accountable.
Well, he's trying to. He's asking the DOJ to investigate all of her dishonesty. So we'll see.
Well, they should follow the lead of the voters that put them in office in DOJ.
All right. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Next guest is the son of an Iranian immigrant. He served 16 years in the U.S. military and is still in the reserves and was just elected to a city council. He is here to tell us why he loves America. Next.
Good morning to you and welcome back. Time for some quick headlines. A teacher is on administrative leave after he's caught on camera allegedly threatening a student.
Don't smile at me, man. Okay? That's how people like you get shot. I got a bet. I bet by the time you're 21, I'm going to like you over here. Okay? And it might be me the one that does.
Well, the man in that video, Paul Hagan, has apologized for the comments in front of students in Georgia. The incident is under investigation. 3 college basketball players are benched after being arrested for shoplifting in China. UCLA freshman LiAngelo Ball, Cody Riley, and Jalen Hill will not play in a scheduled game against Georgia Tech on Saturday. If convicted, they could reportedly face up to 10 years in prison. And it's country music's biggest night. Brad Paisley and Carrie Underwood will host the Country Music Awards for the 10th consecutive time. But the big show will have a more somber feel as the stars pay tribute to the 58 lives that were lost during the Las Vegas massacre. Brian.
All right, talk about life of service. Our next guest, the son of an Iranian immigrant, has more than 16 years of military service, serving in the Navy, in Afghanistan, and in the Army, and is currently an officer in the Naval Reserve. But his story doesn't end there. He's traveled internationally with Presidents Bush as well as Obama as a photojournalist, and just yesterday added something else to his resume. He was elected to the Perrysburg, Ohio City Council. Joining us right now to discuss all of this is Haraz Ghanbari. Haraz, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's great to be with you this morning.
Why did you feel as you had to add something else to your resume? What about this attracted you?
Ever since growing up, from the time I was in Scouts to earning my Eagle Scout Award, I've always just had a heart of service. And I believe that we need to come together to continue to take our community, our state, and our nation forward. And, the years in the military have given me the opportunity to work with folks from all different sides to really work towards a goal much greater and important than our own.
I remember in the 80s when the Cosmos were playing, they had a guy named Eskandarian, and we were at war and the hostages were taken with Iran, and he felt as though he had to have security with him because even though he's an American, he was of Iranian descent because people had that perception. Did you have to overcome people's perception of Iranians?
Not at all throughout my campaign. You know, my parents' decision to have my sister and I born and raised here in Ohio. You know, my mom's an Ohio gal. Met my father, and their decision to have my sister and I born and raised in Ohio is really what gave me my American heritage. And, you know, for that, I'm forever grateful. And having the opportunity to get out and just meet with folks across our community, having knocked on more than 6,000 doors during part of my listening and learning tour, I really felt that a lot of folks really embrace that diversity. And I'm part of the diversity of this country that really makes America what it is, to give people the opportunity to pursue the American dream and really roll their sleeves up and be part of what makes our country the greatest nation in the world.
Horaz, a lot of people who are here for generations don't understand how special this country is. What did you learn traveling the globe that helps you become a better councilman here at home?
The first thing I learned is really that our country is truly the greatest nation anywhere in the world. To have a political process where our voters can roll their sleeves up, get engaged, and have their voices heard, you know, in this political process that we have is truly amazing. You know, traveling around the world with both Presidents Bush and Presidents Obama, as well as 2 Secretaries of Defense and a Secretary of State, really just drove home and gave me more of an appreciation for, you know, really what our men and women are doing around the world, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to give us the opportunity to live here and, you know, in a free nation where we have the opportunity to go out and pursue that dream, whether that be being engaged in the workforce or public service or going to school or worshiping, whomever you choose to worship. There's no other place anywhere in the world that has what we have right here in America. And to be part of that process is really just a humbling experience.
So Perrysburg, one of the things you want to do is actually help vets transition to civilian life. And we have Veterans Day coming up this weekend. How do you plan on doing that?
So first and foremost, you know, here in the great state of Ohio, middle America, we have about 865,000 veterans. And Brian, that's the 6th largest population of veterans in the United States. I truly believe that our veterans are men and women that have risen their hand. You know, when the question was asked, whom shall I send and who will go for us? They said, here am I, send me. So when these men and women come back, I believe they're one of the greatest untapped human potentials that we have. The service and the sacrifice that they have, you know, earned and displayed over years and years of combat, you know, around the world or our peacekeeping missions, helping them, you know, transition to higher education, helping them get involved in the workforce, helping them achieve their small business dreams, desires, and, you know, those passions that really have made America what it is.
All right. Horaz, congratulations on the win. Horaz Gunbari, thanks so much for joining us today and telling us what the people of Ohio can look forward to.
I appreciate it. You know, I really couldn't have done it without my wife, Kim, and my campaign manager, Matthew Bartow. So thanks so much, Brian, for having me on this morning.
That might be the 2 most important names that you could have mentioned. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Coming up next, it's the 1-year anniversary of President Trump's historic election win. Our town hall is back again, fresh off an appearance on Facebook Live, to talk to you live in just a matter of moments.
It is November 8th, the day that we make America great again.
A victory for Donald Trump in Ohio can be called by the Fox News decision desk.
Ohio has picked the president the last 13 elections in a row. This is a big deal.
Fox News decision desk is now projecting that Donald Trump has won the state of North Carolina.
We know we're going to win tonight, but come what may, he built a movement.
Donald Trump will win the state of Florida.
This is an ideological and electoral revolution of the kind we haven't seen since Reagan.
Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, and there goes her blue wall.
In the Clinton campaign headquarters, Jen, we looked in there and it was very still.
It is subdued. There are moments where you could hear a pin drop.
Fox News can now project that Iowa will go to Donald Trump. We are going to make this decision now. The Fox News decision desk has called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump. This means that Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States, winning the most unreal, surreal election we have ever seen.
I can only say that while the campaign is over, our work on this movement is now really just beginning.
We all remember where we were when that news broke. It has been 1 year since President Trump's historic victory over Hillary Clinton. We are back now with our panel talking about where we all stand today. You all remember where you were, right? Some of you were crying, some of you were cheering, right? You were. What were your thoughts last year at this time?
My thoughts was it was not a surprise. Hillary Clinton was the worst candidate I've seen run on a national stage. She didn't go to key states. To Chuck's earlier point about going after those independents, not the base, she never went there. And Donald Trump reflected what union members at UAW, what others said around the country. It's our kitchen table, our economics, and we need a change in Washington with the establishment on all sides.
Yeah, did it backfire on her? I guess it did, obviously, when she talked about deplorables and she called Trump supporters racist. Just put a blanket statement over the whole.
Insulting Americans is never a good idea when you're running for national office. Let's just call it that.
All right, that's David Webb. You know David, Fox News contributor, radio talk show host. Elliot, I'll go to you next. Elliot Feelig, he's a husband, father of two, attorney, and former prosecutor.
You know, I was hopeful because he said in his victory speech, he said, I want to bind the wounds of division. And it sounded sincere. He said he wanted to unite the country. He seemed to recognize this division. Unfortunately, as Jeff Flake pointed out, he seems to take joy in division. He doesn't seem to really mean it that. He doesn't really want to unite us.
The division started day one after the election with the resistance led by the Democrats, fostered by Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party. We're now hearing that the Democrats, as they've always been with identity politics, are interested in dividing the country. Find me the legislation he's put in place about divisiveness.
Wendy
it's about
disagrees.
Americans.
Dr. Wendy Osefo, she has her PhD, liberal political commentator. You disagree with David. Why?
I do disagree with David because we're making it seem as though Trump has not added to the wounds of this country. He has done so. We have to hold him accountable.
What has he done that you want?
He has used language that has ignited the flames. He has called mothers of athletes, sons of bees. Like, there's things that he has done that has made it so you have to choose one side or another.
You're talking about the national anthem?
Yeah, and I believe that we have to, as a leader, your job is not to divide, your job is to heal. And especially if you reside at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, that job is greater for you.
Kieran, I want to go to you because you fought for our country. This is Kieran Lawler, retired infantryman in the Marine Corps Reserves, Republican New York Assemblyman. We're talking about the national anthem. What are your thoughts?
You know, the national anthem has always been a source of unity. My family only goes back 75 years in this country, but I feel connected to George Washington. I feel connected to the Star-Spangled Banner and those things, and that's what unifies us. You know, Clarence Thomas was on this network the other day, and he said, we've lost the unum in a pluribus pluribus unum. And the national anthem, by undermining the national anthem, we're undermining that unity. And I think President Trump has unified a lot of Americans behind the fact that we want the anthem respected.
I know.
Sorry, this is not about the national anthem. This is about inequality. Inequality, opportunity is what binds Americans.
Nikki, let me introduce you. This is Nikki Johnson Houston. She's an attorney, Democratic, sympathetic to Trump voters, you say. You told our producers. I do want to talk to you about this because we need to listen. No matter if you disagree with the people that are kneeling and not standing up. I'm one of those. I think everyone should stand. However, I do want to hear from the individuals that are kneeling because I love them. We love them. They're Americans. They support the black community. They go into their communities and they do so much for their families and for charitable organizations. So we need to listen to them. You say it's about unifying our country. How do we do that?
But it's about inequality that has been experienced by the African American community, about us not having access to good education, safe schools, good neighborhoods,
so how do we
being able to move out.
But
nobody said the military does. But why are we? But what? You know what? I'm sorry. Inequality inequality is divisive. You know what? When we riot, we are told that we are being divisive. When we march, we're told we're being divisive. When we kneel, no, I'm sorry. This is a peaceful protest.
And this is the most patriotic thing that you can do. And when we have our leaders, and I don't care who they are, if they're the white NFL executives or they are our black African-American NFL stars that are looked up to by all races in this country, this is democracy, this is patriotism, and this is peaceful protest, and this is change, which I think we all agree here. We need change in this country. What a more beautiful way to express that.
Just because you don't agree doesn't mean that they can't do it. It's their First Amendment right. You talk about the Second Amendment right.
I disagree with you. I'm trying to ask a simple question. You talk about inequality. How do you get to inequality? If you talk about education, you have to look at the failure in the inner cities, the failure of the public school system, the failure to support school choice, the failure to give people options for an education.
It's a bunch of political
political
community.
policy wonk. And it goes in one ear and out the other. But when we have our sports leaders making a very simple, eloquent message, people listen and they talk about it.
No one can hear you at home when you all yell. You've watched so many panels. It's annoying when you're at home because we can't hear you at all. Chuck, let's change the conversation because that's a little too heated right now. Let's talk about it. We appreciate it, but let's move on to the news of the day. Donna Brazile, she originally said that the election was rigged in Hillary's favor, and then she walked that back, and the word that she used was cancer. How do you feel? Because if people don't know your past, let me read this. Chuck Roche is Democratic strategist, president of Solidarity Strategies, and you were a former Bernie surrogate. You're still friends with him today. Have you talked to him or some people that work with him, and what's his reaction?
Look, I dedicated a year of my life to the campaign. I was a senior advisor. I was there for 14 months. I was in the inner bowels of the campaign making very senior decisions. I watched an American revolution actually happen where people thought they had a voice. We brought in Democrats. We brought in Republicans. We brought in independents. We've seen these young kids who thought, what are the possibilities that we maybe could reach for something, right? And we all felt like we were running against the machine and the establishment. We never knew everything that was going on. This book brought it to light. It's very disappointing, but not for me. It's about the people who actually came out and voted. It's about those young kids between the ages of 18 and 26 who maybe had never participated before, Ainsley, who want to do something a little bit different. I feel sad for them because their vote maybe at the end of the day really didn't even count.
Yeah, Aaron Elmore in the back row, former Apprentice contestant, Trump supporter. You wanted to come on this morning. We were talking in the green room. You wanted to give your opinion about gun control.
Absolutely. Well, and I've been a Trump supporter since the beginning. I've known him for well over a decade, and I even was traveling in the swing state of Pennsylvania with Ivanka, so I know the family very well. And gun control is something that they're passionate about. The issue that we just saw in Texas, by the way, gun control would have done nothing to protect us there. The people that were supposed to protect us, our government, did nothing. They failed. The Air Force was supposed to register this man who I won't even mention his name, and he would not have been able to obtain a gun, but guess what? He obtained a gun. The statistics show that 70% of mass shootings end in under 5 minutes, but the police response time is 11 minutes. So we need good people with guns to help as well.
Two people that haven't talked. Lauren Appel, she's a mom, was on the press team for Rick Santorum, who's a Republican senator, freelance writer. I want you to, we're going to have to wrap this up, Keisha. I want to get you next. Can you give us a hopeful message for the future? We have this church shooting. We're all depressed and sad about that, thinking about the families. Something hopeful going forward.
Well, you know, and just to touch on the gun control thing, too, like she just said, the gun control would not have helped that. And taking a gun away from somebody, that doesn't take the evil away. Right. Because as we just saw here in New York City, somebody can just take a truck and plow into somebody, a pedestrian on the street, and do the same damage.
If anything, it makes the innocent more vulnerable. We can't defend ourselves.
It absolutely does. And I think moving forward, I think that, you know, President Trump is doing a great job, and I think that he has accomplished a lot in his first term in office without much help from Republicans in Congress. And I'm excited to see what the next year brings.
All right, Keisha Heaven on the front row, mom and attorney. You're a mom. What's the message you're telling your children about hope?
I would say, number one, we have to be unified, and we have to think about the safety of our country first and not get so much into who's right, who's wrong, Democrats versus Republican. I'm so tired of it. We need to just do what's right, and that's going to ensure that our children have a brighter future and put safety first and put more money in our law enforcement agencies. Instead of giving people the right to carry firearms, let's talk about the 28th Amendment, which puts safety of our citizens first.
Thank you all for being here. God bless you all. All right, coming up, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie not leaving office quietly. Listen to this.
It's serving folks like you that is really such a unique joy. It really is. You're fabulous.
That was a heckler, someone who doesn't agree with him. We'll tell you that story and the story behind that exchange next.